Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Seaton. I'm the music director of your North State Symphony. And we are here with the first of two special Just Asks tonight and tomorrow night as part of our Youth Celebration Month. And I want to thank our sponsor for these Just Asks, KRCR. Thanks for your wonderful support and for keeping us going during these times. And we're excited to jump into this really exciting month, which is full of stuff. We have some watch parties going on. We have one of the biggest things is our young artist auditions, which of course on any normal year would be live. But since this is not a normal year in a couple months now, we are doing those virtually, and we should have winners announced on April 1st. So something to look forward to, and I'm sure something we'll talk much more about. But tonight I have a very special guest, one of our previous young artist winners from 2019, and his name is Oliver Moore, wonderful pianist, and he's going to join us to tell his story tonight. And well, without further ado, here is Oliver Moore. Oliver,
hi.
How are you? Welcome to the program. It's so nice to see you, at least virtually. And, how appropriate that I'm here talking with you today, because you were the last, one of the last big concerts that I conducted just over a year ago now. And what a big concert that was, too. I mean, we're talking Liszt's first piano concerto, we're talking Saint-Saëns organ symphony, we're talking Arturo Marquez Danzón No. 2. I mean, we really went out with a bang, so to speak. But let's use that as a starting point and back up. I mean, first of all, how have you been this past year?
I've been great. Right now I'm in Kansas at school at KU, and we're in a hybrid format, so partly in person and partly online. My lessons for the past couple of weeks have been in person. So I saw my teacher for the first time in person in a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that I mean, it's funny how different things are depending on what part of the country you're in right now. I mean, I know California obviously is very different, and there's very little in-person music making going on right now. And but it's nice that you're able to interact, at least on a smaller scale, with your professors and colleagues. So let me ask a big question here. How did you get started in music? We're going to back up a while now. Okay. So tell us your story. What gave you that spark? What lit the fire under you? And with that, how did you choose the piano?
I remember when I was 6 years old, my parents decided to give me lessons from the neighborhood piano teacher in Orland, Jim Beanhoff. And I remember coming home from the first lesson, and we set up the keyboard, and I played the first song, and I thought, wow, that was really easy. Like, it's just two notes. I can do anything. So I still remember the first time I played, and I remember really enjoying my lessons and just wanting to get through the books as quickly as I could.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And one thing led to another, and eventually my parents sent me on to Marilyn McGee in Chico, who I think is also, she was a sponsor for the concert in February. And she then sent me on to Dr. Robert Bowman. And that's where I discovered a lot of the piano repertoire and developed a love for this music. But I didn't always play classical music. I remember in like junior high and high school, I did a lot of popular music and ragtime and things outside of the canon that I think have influenced me positively. And now I'm trying to learn a little bit more Beethoven and Brahms. But
so you're sort of starting. You're going backwards now. You're like, you started with ragtime and whatnot, and then now it's time for the 3 Bs, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to fill the gaps in my repertoire right now, and I've really enjoying learning about this music a lot later than most people. I mean, most people learn their first Beethoven sonata when they're like 10 years old or younger. And to be introduced to this music when I'm like 17 or 18, it was, I think, a positive thing, because you can't, I mean, obviously a 17-year-old's not going to fully understand Beethoven, but they can a little bit more than like a 10-year-old. So.
Did you ever play any other instruments?
I played the upright bass in orchestra in high school, and I actually remember playing with the symphony in one of the concerts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And you went to high school where?
At Inspire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a reminder for everyone, since this is a Just Ask, feel free to interject any comments. If you have any questions for Oliver, feel free to shoot those in. I know we have a hello from Warren Jennings. I don't know if you can see this, Oliver.
Yeah. Hi, Warren. And Tomoko.
So, and sorry, remind me, what age did you first touch a piano?
6.
So pretty early.
Yeah.
Far earlier than I touched an instrument. I know, I was in 5th grade when I first touched a saxophone.
Yeah.
That's not 6 years old.
I did too. I touched the saxophone in 4th grade.
Yeah. You were like, no, I don't want that. Let's do something else.
Well, they actually cut the band program, so that's why I didn't play it anymore.
Unfortunate. So going through your studies, and you said you started studying with Dr. Bowman, a wonderful human being. Who I've known as long as my tenure here in Chico and Reading. Was there a particular moment for you that sort of solidified music for you as life, as I have to do this for my career?
I want to say it's always been like that. I don't really have a specific moment where I decided. Well, in high school, I mean, you have to decide what you're going to do, like what you're going to study. And it really, I remember going to Dr. Bowman one day and not really knowing whether I should study piano in college or not. And he said, well, what else are you going to do? And I realized that's true. I mean, I think nothing else would, I think, be as fulfilling for me.
Uh-huh. Did you ever have any competing interests, like things outside of music that you loved equally as much that may have been a possible route for you?
I did like things that also didn't make money, like like English and history and things like that. But I took like engineering classes and really hated it.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I just decided that I would make music work. So we'll see what I end up doing professionally. But yeah.
But it's great because right now you're absorbed in the process. You're comfortable with what you're doing, and whatever happens afterwards, I think you have control over. But it feels like you're very in the present, which I admire. I think it's very important. It's also very, very hard to learn that. I know a lot of young people, especially a lot of young musicians, are so focused on where they want to go that they ignore where they are, and then putting in the time there.
Yeah.
Let's see. So as you've been playing all these years, have you developed a love for a particular section of the repertoire or a particular composer? How has that evolved for you?
It started with well, I remember the first real piece that I played was Debussy's Pour le Piano Suite, and I remember that being the first classical piece that I really started to dig into. Mm-hmm. And after that, it was probably Liszt's Totentanz, which isn't really considered one of the masterworks of the literature, but I remember it really grabbed me as like a 14 or 15-year-old, and I decided I have to play this. So I practiced all summer, several hours a day, and tried to get my fingers able to do the like impossible figures in the music. But
oh yeah,
that
you know, you mentioned Liszt Totentanz. That's a powerful, very dark, relatively speaking, piece, at least in a lot of moments of it. And I wasn't exposed to that type of music until at least college, and I honestly don't know if I even saw an orchestra until I was in late high school or early college. I certainly it wasn't something I grew up with, and certainly not this area of the repertoire. I mean, I grew up playing jazz and you know. Sort of a similar background, but certainly not the same exposure that you have, and so. But with Liszt, there's so much to unpack there, and the Dies Irae, which just a great tune that haunts so many pieces from the repertoire, and many composers were obsessed with this theme, from Berlioz to Rachmaninoff to Liszt. Including a lot of 20th century composers, and you know, it's a death chant. So, did you ever feel that while learning Totentanz, for example, that you know it's just how did you feel trying to get something like that under your fingers?
Yeah, the piece is extremely morbid. I don't know if that was part of the appeal or not. I do know that it was it just really grabbed me. I don't think it was necessarily because of the Dies Irae chant. I mean, I learned about that later on, but yeah, that the piece it took a lot of work to be able to do that. But I think it paid off. I mean, part of the positive experience of playing that piece was my technique was not up to the level of other pianists my age doing competitions and things. So this piece really forced me to get my fingers moving faster, and I think it was a positive piece. It's not necessarily something I would like to play too much anymore, but it was a great like stepping stone to the rest of the literature, I feel
sure. Like. And that and other pieces brings me to my next question. When was the first time that you competed for something, that you took an audition, that you either for like something young artist related, or either maybe an audition for a school? Like, when was the first one of these for you?
I think the first one was either the Paradise Symphony or the North State Symphony. Yeah, that was a really great experience for me. I had never done a competition before, I don't think. Yeah, so the first time I ever did a competition was the North State Symphony's Young Artist auditions.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, which brings us, it's a nice segue into that. And Oliver, I actually have a little surprise for you. I have another special guest here to also talk about young artist auditions and all many of the similar things that you've been through. But please welcome our special guest, Diego Bustamente.
Hey, Oliver.
Oh, hi.
So for everyone watching, Diego, another fantastic pianist who is from the North State region. Diego was the Young Artist winner in 2016, whereas Oliver was our winner in 2019. And as I understood it, very good friends, and they work together a lot and do projects. And they actually have one coming up in Reading on August 13th through the Performing Arts Society. But Diego, welcome to the program.
Hello.
Thanks for crashing the party, man.
Of course.
So let's start with Oliver. Oliver, you one of your first auditions, if not the first, was for North State Symphony Young Artist auditions, which we know that you didn't win the first time around. So tell us about that process for you and what you learned from your first time to your last time doing that.
Well, my first competition, I was incredibly inexperienced, and I remember actually learning notes to the cadenza like the day of the competition. And it was really a mess, but the piece was Schumann's A minor concerto, which is incredibly difficult musically, and but I remember the piece really grabbed me, and I having to play it in the competition forced me to memorize all of the notes, and it was really a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I definitely wasn't ready to play with the orchestra, it was great to compete and to just have the experience of learning the notes.
Right. Was there any an issue of nerves that you felt you've overcome over the years of doing auditions like that?
I honestly don't think the nerves have gotten any better. If anything, I think they've gotten worse as I get older.
That's interesting. And do you feel like it's a positive thing for you to be able to channel that sort of nervous energy into your performances?
Yeah, I think that nerves for me, I can harness them in a positive way and use the adrenaline to focus. I feel like, and not just let them not let them take over my brain and I'm worried that the audience won't respond to this or that I'll miss this note. But I try to just channel the energy into the music and not worry about the external things.
Right. Diego, do you ever have issues with nerves when you perform?
Oh yeah, all the time. Every time. Yeah. I remember maybe early on, when I was really little, not as much of an issue, but then it became an issue more and more, especially as I started playing more difficult repertoire and stuff like that. And as far as what I do about it, I mean, for the most part, just kind of suffer through it. I've experienced what it's like to channel nerves into the music making. But yeah, it doesn't always work out that way. But yeah, it all depends on how prepared I am.
For me, I think that's one of the huge things that it boils down to is level of preparation. And as a performer, not as a conductor, but as an instrumental performer, I always had a huge time with nerves and just exposing myself that way in front of people. Even when I was a master's student and practiced, 7+ hours a day, I never felt like I was truly ready. And there was always, these passages, and this is true for any performer, but there's always these passages or these things that you're so excited to share, and then you botch it. Some of it just never comes the way you want. But at the same time, there's something special about live performance that you've tried to rehearse out everything that can go wrong so that it can go right at least once. But as a conductor, it's always been easier for me to be the scorer rather than to focus on every tiny detail when it comes to being an instrumentalist for whatever reason. But Diego, so tell us a little bit about your young artist experience. How many years did you audition before you won it?
Yeah, I actually I did it 2 times before I won it. The first time, forget how old I was. I must have been like 13 or 14, I want to say. And I played the same movement that I performed with the North State Symphony back in 2017. Played the first movement of Mozart's D minor piano concerto, and I got second place. And then let's see. Then the following year, I brought the third movement of the same concerto, and I had like one of the biggest memory slips. Like one of the biggest. the first time around that this material happens, it goes one direction. The second time the material happens, it goes in a different direction.
Yeah.
And I did the wrong way. And then there was a bunch of fumbling, and then I got back on track and finished the piece. And I got honorable mention.
Uh-huh.
And then the next year I didn't do the competition, and then in 2016 I did it again, and that's when I won first place, and then performed in 2017.
Performing, auditioning, forgetting a passage, going to the wrong place in the music. It's very similar to tuning as a wind player or a brass player, because no one, or very few people, are ever perfectly in tune from the very beginning. What defines you as a musician is how fast you adapt, how fast you can find that center. And comparable as a performer, when you make a mistake, I think what defines us is how quickly we either recover or can make it look like it was intentional. Which happens a lot. I mean, even in the orchestral world, there's orchestras make mistakes all the time. How do we recover from that? What separates us from a lesser orchestra? And I think that's something we should all continue to think about. And you all have done wonderful jobs, if you have made mistakes, recovering from them and still keeping the spirit, the character, the body of the music going. And that's a true testament to your musicianship. So let's talk about, with both of you, what was the actual process like putting together a piece with the North State Symphony?
I'll go first, I guess. I didn't perform the piece that I auditioned with. I used the Totentons piece in the audition, and then I just sent you an email and asked, can we do the Liszt First Concerto? And you said, sure. So we did it. And I wanted to learn a new piece, just partly so I could have a larger repertoire of concertos. And that piece I thought would be especially good, partly because it is exciting, and it's a really big technical piece that's really interesting, even if you don't really know a lot about music, classical music in general. But it's also a really good piece, and I like it a lot more musically than the Totentons. So preparing it was just a lot of practice. I mean, I tried to pace it out over the course of the year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I played it with Diego in a concert with two pianos.
Oh, really?
And a couple months before the concert, and that was very helpful. Yeah. And just learn the notes and make sure it's solid and show up to rehearsal.
What was that probably wasn't your first time with orchestra when you played with North State? Or was it?
No, I'd done a couple before. I played with the Paradise Symphony, and I'd done another competition in LA.
Okay. And Diego, what how much experience had you had with orchestra before North State?
I had performed with the Paradise Symphony on 2 occasions. The same year I got second place with the North State, I won first place with the Paradise Symphony. Okay. I performed the first movement of the Mozart Concerto, and then the same year that 2016, when I won first place with the North State, I also I did Paradise again, and I won first place. And I played the third movement with them. Yeah.
Nice. So as far as, maybe not even North State, but as far as just stepping with an orchestra for the first time or the first rehearsal, from that point to the concert, what challenges for you have to be overcome, or were there any, or did you feel at home the whole time? For young people who may watch this, should they be scared, or was it just exciting from beginning to end, because maybe you had that factor of preparation as something that wasn't necessarily a concern for you at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it's really exciting to go from listening to recordings and hearing an orchestra and a piano together, and then suddenly you're playing the piano and the orchestra is playing with you. It's a completely different experience. I was both excited, but also it was a bit of a challenge to be able to, especially with Liszt, to make everything match up with what the orchestra is doing. And in these romantic pieces, the tempo likes to fluctuate, and you really have to be on your toes. So especially with the Liszt first concerto with the North State Symphony, I remember we spent a couple days trying to match up where cues are going to happen and things like that.
Now, for you both, as performers with an orchestra, do you feel like most of the, or generally speaking, maybe not just your particular conductors, but do you feel like it's mostly been led by you, and that the orchestra was an accompanying mechanism, or that it was really the orchestra that dictated how you should play certain passages or how you should play the piece as a whole? Do you have a certain impression either way? Like, do you felt like you still had ownership on the piece and how you wanted it to go versus how it, there may be some unique challenges for the orchestra or something like that?
Diego, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to hear Oliver's response to this, because the piece that I played, since it's by Mozart, it's a lot, so, I mean, I don't want to say simpler, but it's simpler. And I guess there isn't as much freedom, like with tempo, and I don't know, there's it's hard to explain, but I felt like I feel like that the symphony just fit with me like a glove.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't feel like I had to do much to work with the symphony. But I feel like maybe for the Liszt concerto, it might have been different, because there's just so much more that goes on, and so much change, that I feel like maybe Oliver did have to adapt more to the symphony.
In the Liszt concerto, there were a lot more fireworks and technical things, but I would say the Mozart is a more difficult piece in a musical sense, but it's a lot more subtle. But the Liszt it's yeah, exactly. It's a big heroic concerto, so it took a lot of work to be able to just fit all those notes in, and then to line that up with the orchestra is a whole nother challenge.
Yeah, I mean, both pieces certainly have, or both composers certainly have very unique things. Liszt is definitely more of how do you balance everything, versus Mozart, how do you add that element of nuance? I mean, there's so much that goes into both. We just want to highlight some of the comments here. Agreed, Hannah. Thanks for the comment. Appreciate it. But yeah, I remember for the Liszt, there are definitely some real challenge spots that you can easily point them out. Whereas the Mozart, it's more about, I think, the piece as a whole and how do you bring that together. So definitely a huge difference in the architecture and train of thought in romantic versus more of the early classical type stuff. Do you guys have any other thoughts on those processes?
I mean, other than the like couple of spots, I think that the symphony was very generous with my crazy-ish tempos, especially at the end. You'll see. It just keeps getting faster.
Yeah, since I accompanied Oliver the August before he performed with the North State Symphony, I knew how he played the piece, and I knew that the challenges, since I had to be his orchestra. And oh my God, when I made a trip up to Chico to see him perform, and oh oh my God, when he got to the ending, I was like having a heart attack. I was like, oh my God, I've never heard him play it that fast. Like, how is that even possible?
Crazy. I want to say one thing really quickly about Diego in particular, and Oliver, correct me because I just don't remember. But when you auditioned, at least one of the times, I remember you playing just first of all a wonderful audition. But what I also remember is that I think almost immediately afterward you were accompanying someone else.
Yes.
And that just speaks worlds about you. I mean, the fact that you are so warm, so collegial. I mean, everyone I know loves working with you, and you've both been so great to collaborate with, and I imagine that's how your peers feel about you. But how that must be really difficult to be in one zone and then to be in another, just like that.
I guess it didn't really feel that way to me. I guess they just both feel like performances. I remember that because before I was eligible to compete in the North State Symphony audition, I was turning pages for Dr. Bowman. And I would it's like one of the things I would look forward to every year.
That's one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah, I would always turn pages for Dr. Bowman. And it was like one of the most like exhilarating concerts for me, those auditions. And I love page turning a lot, as you can tell. And then there was the year that the first year that I competed, I also turned pages. So I was like, doing double duty then. And then when I the year that I won first place, I also was asked to accompany Sarah Krolder, who I used to play with a lot, that amazing vocalist. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So I was like, yeah, triple duty. This will be fun.
We have a question. Maybe you guys can help answer this. How do you prepare for performing a piece with an ensemble orchestra? How do you get a reference for the whole piece? Is it a recorded performance, or do you play it by yourself beforehand for a while? So maybe you guys can speak to that.
Well, you can go on YouTube and watch Martha Argerich play the piece and want to quit the piano. But yeah, I mean, I personally am extremely thankful for the internet as a resource in developing as a musician, because I mean, YouTube is really an unlimited resource of recordings. I mean, there's a lot of bad stuff on there, but it's when you find the good stuff, it's really I don't know, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I agree with what Oliver said. Like I've definitely tried, performing pieces along to YouTube videos, and I mean, with these romantic concertos, it doesn't work very well because, YouTube is full of pianists like Martha Argerich, who just play, like things like faster than anyone else. And like throughout my time at University of the Pacific, I've worked on the Tchaikovsky first piano concerto, first movement, which Oliver accompanied me on, and then currently the first movement of Rachmaninoff's first piano concerto. And I've tried, playing both of those with YouTube videos, and it just it'll work for bits and pieces here and there, right. But then when the hard parts come up, then it's like. It just doesn't really work.
Yeah, and that can be a good learning resource, but I think as a performer we have to be careful not to be the YouTube recording, that we use it as maybe a tool in the beginning, but just at that point, I think it's important, at least for me, to detach myself from all YouTube recordings and to get as much of my own musical impressions of the piece as possible and start to develop my own opinions. And so yeah, there is a danger, but at the same time, YouTube is such a wonderful resource, along with all of our other streaming platforms nowadays. I mean, I remember when I was in college, YouTube was not a thing yet. I mean, I was going back between Napster and giant laser discs that we had in our library at the School of Music. So you all are definitely living a very different age than my when I was preparing for performances. So for better or for worse, there it is. We have another Harold Kruger. Hello. So first of all, I just want to thank Diego and once again bring up that you guys are going to perform together soon. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we'll be playing together, hopefully in person, depending on the pandemic. But if not, it will be online at the, I think, the Pilgrim Congregational Church in Reading on August 13th, probably around 7 p.m. We're not sure about the time yet, but hopefully we'll be doing some 2-piano music and a couple of solos and maybe some ragtime and some fun music.
Well, I'm sure everyone who's listening is really looking forward to that. I know I am. I've listed PAS Reading. Is that the best place for them to find information about this, or is there another source?
Probably, yeah. I mean, it will probably be on Facebook, social media. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Well, I can't wait for that. Diego, I want to thank you again for joining us. And surprising our guest here.
Yeah, it was lots of fun.
But I hope it'd be so wonderful to be able to do something with both you at some point, and I'm sure a lot of fun, because part of music making is the relationships that you build along the way, and when there's a real genuine chemistry between people, it just makes the performances all the more fun and exciting for everyone involved. And it'd be so great to do like a double concerto or something with you guys.
Yeah.
But Diego, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
All right, bye. Diego.
Bye.
So Oliver, as we're preparing for our Liszt first piano concerto at 7 p.m. tonight, our revisitation of our 2020 pre-pandemic Masterworks performance with the North State Symphony. Tell us any thoughts you had about that particular performance, and maybe chat about anything special in the piece that we should listen for when we go back through it.
Yeah, I thought the performance went well. Ignore my couple of wrong notes, I guess. It was. Yeah, I mean, it was really exciting for me, and I hope the audience thought the same thing. A little bit about the piece. It starts with the orchestra with these really big notes, and I think that one of Liszt's friends, or his son-in-law, Hans von Bülow, put the words "Das versteht ihr alle nicht, haha." Which means none of you will understand this, haha.
Yeah, no.
He was referring to the critics at the time who really hated the piece and called it all sorts of names, including the Liszt Triangle Concerto.
Where the triangle does play a little role, and what a great little piece of music, a very sort of compact, condensed, nearly singular movement-ish, at least it feels like that sometimes, and just so much happening throughout. But you played it so wonderfully. And is there any other thing maybe in the later half of the piece that we should listen for?
Well, at the
aside
beginning,
from the triangle, of course.
Yeah, the triangle. Well, the second movement, it's all in one movement, like 120-minute long movement. But the second section is a really beautiful, almost Chopin-esque nocturne, which is just kind of like an evening song. and then out of nowhere comes the triangle. And just from that, once you hear the triangle, everything on is just a big build up to the end. So.
Well, it's going to be so much fun to revisit that. Oliver, any final thoughts? Maybe any final thoughts for any young musicians watching today who maybe haven't taken their first audition yet, or haven't necessarily decided that music is the right career for them? What advice would you give someone like that at your ripe old age now?
my ripe old age of 20. I would say music doesn't have to be a career. It could always be a passion that you study and have with you your entire life. You don't have to make a living at it, or at least that's what I've been gathering from people. If you are going to do that, then start working now. I mean, just practice and yeah, I mean, really be open to different things, and like keep windows and doors open. And yeah, and if you're considering doing the Young Artist audition, I would definitely do it. It was an extremely positive experience for me. I didn't win the first time or the second time or the third time, actually. It took me 4 times. But it really taught me persistence, and it's a great experience.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's so crucial. Just not giving up. This sense of tenacity that I think young musicians, if they're serious, need to have. Because, you know, I auditioned when I was in school for the concerto competition several times before I got even an honorable mention. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so really just not giving up. Don't be deterred when you don't win, and don't. I think one of the most important things that you can do as a young musician is be able to take in feedback and criticism, but not to take it personally, but to use it as a tool to help you get past that point, to get to that next step. So yeah, there are so many people who have performed in the Young Artist auditions with the North State Symphony in the past 6 years. And I just wish that they had auditioned again, because they were so close. I just wish they knew that, you know, you give this great performance and you feel like it's a great performance, and you're so disappointed when you don't win. But there's always that extra layer. And Oliver, you figured out what that extra layer was. And that's how you got there.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I feel like if I won the first time I did it, I was not ready at all. I didn't win for a reason, because it would be incredibly embarrassing to play so bad with the orchestra. But yeah, I mean, if you do win, just keep trying and it'll happen.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Oliver, what do you do outside of music? Do you have any hobbies that distract you from all the pressures of practicing all the time?
It's been particularly busy lately. I mean, over the quarantine, my family was happy to have me home so I could cook. And I mean, yeah, right now it's just been kind of pedal to the metal, learning repertoire and preparing for competitions and things. But, yeah.
Oh, I can understand that. I have one final question. So nice to see you too, Louisa.
Hi. And
thanks for everyone for being here. My last question is, how often do you hear the phrase, "We're not in Kansas anymore"?
Well, when I'm in Kansas, never. Yeah, that and Wizard of Oz jokes are not appreciated here.
That's good to know. Yeah. I've only driven through Kansas once, and that's my only experience there. But and actually, I will say it was very beautiful, because it had just rained, and like all these gigantic clouds were in the distance, and you can see the sky forever.
Yeah, it was like 75 today, and it was just raining right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so you never know.
Oh, exactly. Well, Oliver, I'm looking forward to the watch party and premiere tonight. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and to tell your story to our hopefully a lot of younger viewers who are getting ready for careers in music. And I hope, like I told you in Diego, I hope to be able to work with you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott, and thank you to all of the donors and the musicians in the symphony.
Yep, and thanks to everyone who stopped by and said hello. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we hope to see everyone at the very least at the watch party tonight. But please, go to northstatesymphony.org and check out all of our offerings for the next few weeks. And we hope to definitely see everyone sometime, but I really hope in person sometime soon. So have a great night, Oliver. Thank you, and be well. Hope your family and everyone stays safe through all this.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.